Yo, what's up, everybody? About a year ago, I made a Battleground Blitz map guide, and the game mode has been refined quite a bit since then. It's evolved since then. It's because it was brand new. It had a different player count than RBG's, 8 to 10. It had a different healer to DPS ratio. It had a brand new rule set, honestly, for a lot of the maps. So it took some time for the community to come up with these guidelines, rules of thumb, standard stuff that improves your win rate as a team pretty much on every map. There's a problem, though, and it's that I don't know where you would find that information ever. There's probably some resources around here and there. There's my video that's ancient now at this point. And there's also a lot of people telling you stuff, yapping in your ear during the pre-game waiting room. But you don't know who to trust on that, right? Somebody says this thing, somebody says something entirely different, somebody might be talking out their bum, somebody knows everything they're saying, but you would have no way of knowing, right? And the community as a whole, myself very much included, kind of assume that you should know all of these things, which is crazy because I don't know how you would. Now, I don't claim to be the definitive all-time source of BG Blitz wisdom, right? But I have played a ton of games. I've played at high MMR. I've played with players much better than me and learned from them. I've seen us win games with them. I've watched streams. I've watched high MMR streams. I've seen so much Battleground Blitz content. This is not going to be stuff that only Avadan's 3700 Rogue can perform. This is going to be general guidelines that improve your win rate because they're just locked in as useful things to do on every single map. And what I'm going to try and do is rationalize it. Explain it in a way where you could be like, oh, I get that. I hear you. That makes sense why that would result in a win, rather than just telling you things and saying, now do it. I really want to explain it in that way so you believe me as this creator, as somebody that you can trust to tell you useful information. So I really hope that I do that well in this video. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through every map, and I am going to give you those tools on every single map, kind of point 1, point 2, point 3, or however many I have per map, until we get to the last one. I'll put some timestamps so you can skip through if you don't want to just hear me yapping for an hour, but it is going to take a while to go through all of this. So we're going to start here with Deepwind Gorge. I got blank template maps for every map. Unfortunately, the nodes are missing, but I didn't want to get a bunch of dots and other distracting things. So what we got here is quarry, farm, shrine, ruins, market, and then horde and alliance side. You can see it all right there. I like how they have little icons here to kind of show you which one is which, so it should be totally understandable, even though the nodes themselves are missing. But let's do it. Let's start with rule of thumb number 1. Market should probably, in almost 95% of all situations, have 2 players in it. A healer that's tanky and has a lot of cooldowns, and a DPS that's disruptive, tanky, and has a lot of tools to spin. Let's give an example. Mistweaver Monk or R-Shaman DK, right? Those are some healers that have a lot of self cooldowns. You've got Live Cocoon and Revival. You've got Port, you've got Fort Brew, and then the DK has ways out of your CC like IBF and AMS and Lichborn, and has blind and stun, so you could probably cap yourself. This is because this is a spin node most of the time that you're just trying to cap by CCing their team for long enough to capture it with AoE CC effects. As a result, if you send more than 2 to this node, you might be in for a lot of trouble. You think, wait, if we have 3 and they have 2, we're going to win this node. We're going to get a node for our team, and then we're going to be the heroes. Not so fast. If the DK is playing entirely to survive, all tank, all CC, controlling you, just spinning, kiting. The Mistweaver is using this line of sight and this line of sight and rolling around, porting behind pillars and using their cooldowns properly. They can even run out of the map for a second and run back in. If they are playing as passively and as slowly as possible to CC you, to disrupt you, to heal, and to survive, you'd be surprised on how long it would take you, even a 3v2, to win this node. Because unlike 3v3s with maybe a guaranteed mortal strike or dampening, or somebody has to get a kill on you, so they're playing more aggressively, this could be played completely passive, where they're just like, wait, they have 1 extra player here, play to live. And you feel like you should be able to get killed because you have 2 DPS to their 1 healer, but no dampening, maybe not a mortal strike. Maybe they just play insanely passively and insanely disruptive CC. Every go you have is blinded or stunned or ported or fort brewed or revivaled, right? And then what do you have? You have 3 people here, and they have 2. But neither of you have the node, which means every other base is going to be harder for your team to win at the cost of everything and the victory of nothing, right? You don't gain anything from it. And what will happen is you'll start to get snowballed on those nodes. Let's say the player should have been at Quarry, right? And now your player is in a 1v2 because let's just do some math here. We've got 8 people. 2 of their players are here. Now we've got 6 left. 1 up here, 1 up here. Now we've got 4 left. That means they could have 4 at bottom, right? Or if they have 2 at Quarry, they could have 3 at bottom. If you only have 1 guy at Ruins and they have 2, they get to win that node for free. A 2v1 is not like a 3v2 when they have a healer. A 2v1 on a DPS, that DPS is done, right? They are just dead. But if, because of the new BG Blitz rules, where all they have to do is cap it for an amount of time and then it gets locked in, and that is something that's in my other video, so I'll link to it in the description. It locks in the node. It is now uninteractable for an amount of time while they just collect points. While that node is locked in, they can go back to Shrine if it was a 1v1 and win that as well, because that 1v1 guy could just stall because he knows this 2v1 is being won over here at Ruins, and now they come back and win the 2v1 at Shrine. So it feels like, okay, so we lost 1 player, but we might eventually get this, but that's not true. You might just be losing 1 player that dies and then at Ruins, and then another guy's going to die at Shrines, and you are kind of just snowballing them pressure, all because you don't have that guy there to help make it a winnable 2v2 or a spinnable 2v2. Now they're just rotating people back and forth between these bottom or top nodes, winning them over and over and over, and all that for nothing, because you might still not have market. Again, a 2v1 against double DPS versus 1 DPS is easily won. A 3v2 healer DPS versus healer DPS is not easily won. It takes much longer, especially depending on the caliber of players. So, rule of thumb number 1, and this is so important. Try and keep 1 healer, tanky healer with a lot of cooldowns, and 1 DPS at market. And don't be the guy who feels like they can make a difference by going there when you actually could be making a difference somewhere else on these top or outside nodes that really value your presence as a player, right? They are squishy, right? They're squishy nodes. There's only a DPS there, maybe 2 DPS, but they could both die because they have no healer, right? That means your impact is so much higher. Now, for every rule in this, you have to know the rules to break them. There are times where, if you just won Ruins, you could grab Zerking, pop every single cooldown in market, kill the healer instantly, and run straight back to Quarry, right? You have to know the rules to break them, but you have to know when you're in that situation to do that. If people say, hey, all these people go top and all these people go bottom, and you're one of the people who's supposed to go bottom, you go straight to mid, and they pop every defensive cooldown and your burst is completely negated, and then you're like, and then, well, we lost Quarry and Shrine, wait, where's our Boomkin, where's our blank, you know? You have to know the rules to break them, and the rule here is 2-on-2, spin that node, play for the outsides. Okay, now, rule of thumb number 2, contest their nodes. This is true in Arathi too. We will get to that in a second. You can't just play your side of the, let's say you're Horde, right? You got a triangle here. This is your triangle. You think, well, if we lock down these 3 nodes, then we win. That's not necessarily how it works, right? Because if they have 1 healer at mid, that means they have 1 other healer roaming these outside nodes, and they could push a healer and a DPS over to your node and spin it. And if their nodes are not being contested, but yours are, you've just found yourself in another situation where you might have a 3v2 at Quarry, which is exactly as bad as the 3v2 at market. Again, let me show you the math here. So they send a healer and a DPS. They remember how we talked about there could be 3 at top side? One of those would be a healer and a DPS. They send that over to Quarry. They leave 1 guy at farm, okay? Farm guy caps his node for free because you don't have anybody there because you're not following this rule and you're not contesting their nodes. So he caps this for free. But you got a 3v2 here, right? So you should, oh wait, that's not a guaranteed win as we just talked about in rule of thumb number 1. So if you play only your nodes, you're gonna have 3, 3, 2, and you have all of these non-quickly won spin nodes that are being contested. So you have no base, right? Whoop, that's not what I want. No base, and they have base. And everything on your side of the map is neutral until you eventually win it. But when you do eventually win it, they already won theirs a long time ago for free, right? So they had 2 free bases, and you have 2 slower eventually won bases. And sure, you get some kills out of it, but by the time, remember, those nodes are locked in. You can't just go over there and cap them because they already got them for free. And by the time you could, they get to respawn and go right back to them. So they're slowing down your caps and making it much less likely for you to be able to catch up with the pace of them capping their bases for free. So rule of thumb number 2 is you got to send a tanky DPS, a great 1v1 class, a great CC class, a ret, a rogue, even an enhancement shaman. All of these classes that can live and spin with pets and CC over to their nodes. If you are that person, take it upon yourself. If you're not that person, try and get your teammates who may be helping you at a base that's kind of just a pseudo spin node, right? Again, if it's a healer DPS at Ruins and you have 3 people there, say one of you has to go to Shrine and contest that node, or they're just getting points for free while we get nada, right? So there's rule of thumb number 1 and number 2. One last rule of thumb for Deepwind Gorge, and this one is very important, and I should be able to explain it in a way that everybody would understand as well. Don't cross the vertical side of the map as much as humanly possible. Cross the horizontal side. I've been talking about that as if it's already known this entire video, but now I'm going to flesh it out for you. Look at the distance between this and this versus this and this. Because of the locked-in node gameplay style of BG Blitz, you might end up always going to locked in nodes if you have to take that much travel time to get there, right? You have to be at a node quickly, or you might not be able to actually make a play on it at all. And the only quick movements are these horizontal triangles here, right? We got horizontal and then the triangle, horizontal and then the triangle. You can't do it with this vertical base, right? Boop, boop, boop. Because it's just way too long and you won't be able to make an impact. Now, I say almost all the time, of course, because sometimes, you got 6 people bottom and nobody top, and you're like, fine, I'll go top, right? It's not like you lose the game once you cross this vertical line. Sometimes your entire team is bottom and you just got to make a play. You got to move up there or you're going to lose for sure. But as a result, when you're floating, the best thing you can do, if you've got a bunch of people top and a bunch of people bottom and everybody is doing their job, just rotate back and forth between these horizontal bases. And again, if you want to add the triangle, like if they capped market and then somebody comes to help Shrine and then you float over to Ruins and then that guy floats over to market, like you can do this triangle as long as you're keeping the numbers all proper. But again, just try not to do the square. Otherwise, you're going to be taken out of the game. So there's 3 rules of thumb for Deepwind Gorge. Now, I wanted to go immediately on to Arathi Basin because it has the exact same play style, right? 5 nodes. Base cap from BG Blitz where you cap it. It's recappable for a little while, but it's in your favor. If they don't touch it in any way, then it locks in and then you get the points and they can't do anything about it, right? The exact same thing as Deepwind Gorge. Arathi Basin looks a little sillier in the template map, but we won't be here for very long because, again, it's all the same rules of thumb as Deepwind Gorge. So I'm going to go through them and just reiterate them very quickly. What is Blacksmith? It is market. It is a spin node for tanky, DPS, and healers. So what's the rule of thumb? This is like a children's learning show. You can raise your hand in the back. You can scream it at the TV. Of course, it's don't send more than 2 to Blacksmith, right? The exact same thing applies. People who have 4 at Blacksmith lose Battleground Blitz games. It rarely happens at higher MMR. It happens a lot at lower MMR where people are begging in chat, please get out of Blacksmith, guys. Well, we're about to win it. No, you're not. I promise. And then 5 minutes goes by. We've lost every other node and they finally get Blacksmith. And it's like, well, we won Blacksmith. Well, what happened? We did our job. Well, not entirely, because now you have people who have no chance of winning on every off node, right? They're very hard to get to from Blacksmith. You can't rotate properly. Look at LM, you've got to go up the Z-axis, right? Mines, you've got to drop down. If you don't have a fly, you're going to be taking fall damage. It's very difficult to just plant yourself at Blacksmith and have anybody else have a chance at these nodes. 2 people at Blacksmith, just like market, is the rule of thumb. Again, if you need the full explanation, you've got it as rule of thumb number 1 in Deepwind Gorge. And then the other 2 are identical too, where you got to contest their nodes, right? You have to contest their nodes as much as you possibly can, but it's slightly modified because Deepwind Gorge map design was kind of split up. So you guys had 2 nodes and they had 2 nodes. But Arathi, with its shape, right? Nobody has that. You have one node, they have one node, and there's two nodes right there that are contestable by both. So it is important that you contest every node, but it's not really their node. You only have one node that's their node, and if you are a Ret Paladin or a Rogue player who can contest that for a long time, right, sap, 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 cheap, 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 get a blind out, stop them from capping their own node, you could really hold them up at farm, but it is less imperative that you just sprint straight across to their node because you have these really important double contested nodes that you must win. So now the rule of thumb becomes contest those contested nodes, obviously, and occasionally make a play so they don't just get farm or stables, depending on which side you are, for free. If you are a class that can do that, again, Rogue, Red, you've got all these cooldowns to go through. You've got Bubble, you've got Bop, you've got Lay on Hands, you've got great spinning tools with your Dawnlight, right? And that's what it's called, right? That thing that is from the Herald of the Sun. Here, that sounds so cool, by the way. Yeah, so you can spin them forever there and hold them there, absolutely. But what you really got to focus on, first and foremost, is winning your contestable node. So you've got your stables right off the bat. Now, here's how this goes, and I'm going to lead it right into rule of thumb number 3, which is the general strat for Arathi Basin. Mines needs really powerful burst DPS that can live and support their teammates. Ret is premier for this, right? You could, at Mines, bubble yourself, spell bop or physical bop somebody else, and lay on hands a third person, giving all three of you a tool to survive with no healer. If they do not have a ret, and you do use all of those buttons, you don't hold them for a rainy day, you don't just say, well, I didn't want to use everything. Use everything, trust me. The first 3v3 or 4v4 at Mines can win you the game. You can completely demoralize them by wiping their whole team with no chance they could do anything. So don't hold those cooldowns. Use them and win that Mines. And if they are Rogue, DK, Hunter, or something, they don't have the perfect comp for it, and you're Ret XX, you can immune yourself, immune another guy, full heal the final guy that they swap to, right back up to full with Lay on Hands, and they are powerless because by that time they've all rotted. Believe me, I've been in a million Mines fights. If you do not have a Ret to counter that, they just outlast you as long as that Ret presses their button. So the idea here is send a Ret if you have it, guaranteed. A Ret goes to Mines, but then other things that can get their burst off instantly and wall quickly to make them harder to kill, even though there won't be a healer down there, right? Generally, most of the time, people do that. So DK can do this pretty well. Hunter can do this amazingly. Marks can take half your health from camo, right? Marks is a perfect send down there. If you can take somebody to half health from camo and then follow it up with like rapid fire, you got your arcane shots, instant damage from across the map. They have huge range. They come from camo, right? That is so powerful. And of course, Rogue is another great thing. It comes from stealth. It has stun locks. It can take people out of the game while everybody else does damage. So you got your Rogues and your Rets. DK is a pretty good tool. Shadow Priest can even be pretty decent as well because they have dispersion and life swap. Like, you don't want to send somebody there that is just going to walk on down and die, right? Warrior does not really want to go down here, right? You need to be either very tanky or immune to CC so you can get all your damage off, or coming from stealth, or a Ret Paladin. Ret Paladin always wants to be there. For then, up at LM, why is this so different? Why wouldn't you just spend all of those people and win LM? Because LM has something that every other node doesn't have to this extent. It has a cliff right here. And that cliff, you get knocked off, it doesn't matter how good your utility it is. It doesn't matter how bursty you are flying, you are gone. You are probably dead, but you're certainly not getting back up to the node very soon, which allows you to send a healer and a mage or a healer and an Ellie, and it doesn't matter how bursty they are. They can't really, you could just play really far back, and if they ever just be like, well, maybe I'll just cap the point, you just punt them off. If you just kite them over to the edge, you can punt them off. They can't chase you because then they don't want to get knocked off, but then that means they can't do their burst. They're in trouble because they don't get to play in the positioning they want to play, and you can totally like nullify everything they're trying to do. At Mines, there is a Z-axis, but it's up here. You can't get punted up. You can't climb up it. You can't get punted off of it, right? So in Mines, it's this grudge match where you need to press all your cooldowns and live. But at LM, you just send a healer DPS up there, an Arch Shaman, a mage, an Ellie. A lock can port knock. All of these beautiful things, and they're just sent down off the cliff. So what does that leave us with? Capture your own node, a rogue or a ret or something tanky and disruptive spins their node, remember to always send those key ret, marksman, hunter, unholy DK maybe, but rogue, fantastic, down to mines and pop your CDs and don't save them for the next BG Blitz. Use them right now, demoralize your teammate by destroying them in that mines fight. Send clever and niche specs up to LM that can do things like Mighty Ox kick them off, or, you know, Ring of Peace them off, or Mage Blast Wave or Ellie Knock, all that stuff, and just spin mid. Warrior, Priest, Warrior, Mistweaver Monk, something like that that just lives and sits D-stance and has parry and has Shockwave and Fear and Stun and all of that to mid. And that's rule of thumb number 3, is the full contesting rule of thumb that goes on in Arathi Basin. Okay, now we're on to EOTS. EOTS, I went over this a lot in my first video again. EOTS, very interesting. Only 2 of the nodes are active. At the beginning, it's Fel Reaver Ruins and Draenei Ruins, and the other 2 do nothing. They are literally inactive nodes. You can't just make a play and be like, well, I'm just going to go to one of these that are grayed out. It just doesn't do anything, right? We know this by now. Then the flag capture gives you points, but neutralizes any node you have immediately and makes the other 2 nodes active. Now, this is going to change in midnight, but we've got a lot of time since midnight, and I'd be happy to make an updated video then. But what that means is if you capture the flag, if you had 2 bases, they are now neutral, and you only got a tiny chunk of points compared to everything you could get. So what is rule of thumb going to be? I mean, I think everybody knows this by now, but EOTS can be so frustrating for so many people. I'm going to lay it down anyway. Do not capture the flag when you have 2 bases. It doesn't matter if you're going to die with it. It doesn't matter if you feel like your team is wiping. Just don't do it. In fact, I'm going to update that rule of thumb to don't have the flag in your hands when you're up 2 caps to 0. You can just drop it. Now, at the highest MMR, they're going to do all sorts of passing off the flag between players to make sure that there's nothing you can do for counterplay. But realistically, at almost everything until you're playing against Avidance, you might just be able to drop the flag. Just drop it. Right-click it. Go up to your buffs at the top and right-click the flag icon and remove it. And you should probably do it really far away from your team so it resets and nobody else has a chance to pick it up and mess up the game. This is because if you have 2 bases and they have 0, they get no points at all. They have no win condition. The only win condition is praying that they can grip you. Here's where I'm going with this. Grip your character with a DK over to the node and force you to cap. Now, 40-yard range from a grip is way more than you think it is. You can be gripped from like way out here and you're like, oh shit, sorry guys, I got gripped. I didn't mean to cap, right? But there's all their other tools, right? You can get knocked into it. You can get swooped up into it. There's a dragon ability that picks up your character and drops it on top of the flag capture. Well, I got swooped up. There's nothing I could do. There's one thing you can do. Drop the flag. Walk all the way over here. Let your other team spin. You're not going to lose it just because you walked over there for 5 seconds. Walk all the way over there, drop it, and let it reset. Now watch, as their team's like, well, we got to go get the flag because that's our only chance, and they're pulling off your bases. And now, while that's happening, you're getting hundreds of points, way more than a flag capture, and they're getting nothing. Nothing. They get nothing. They have no win condition. Their point score is not going up. They don't get points for kills. They don't get points if they kill you 1,000 times. There's still 0 points on their board. So when you have 2 cap, don't capture the flag, but then upgrade that. Don't even have the flag in your hands. Grab that flag, run it all the way away from your base, drop it, let it reset, and now the team is powerless. Most teams just give up. I played in a BG Blitz the other day on stream where we got 2 caps very early, and everybody was aware of what they needed to do. The flag was just dropped off the ledge. It respawned in the middle. Their entire team AFK'd because you got a healer at each node, you're spinning it, you got a DK slowing them from node to node, you've got really tanky classes, people float back and forth from node to node where they see you going because mount speed is very fast in yachts. They just quit the game. They just all AFK'd because we're getting hundreds of points and they're getting 0 points, and if they finally capture a node, it doesn't even get close to winning them the game because we can just spin mid. And that's the other thing. You're like, okay, well, they capture the node and then they grab the flag and then they capture the flag. Then I wish I had the flag in my hands. That's insane. If they're all here to finally wipe you and capture one of your 2 nodes, you know what they're not doing? Winning mid. Because they all had to be here to wipe you. Which means all you do is you just walk one character over, beep, boop, and spin it. And then as they start piling in, you start piling in, and you just spin the flag. Because you're up 900 points, and they have no win condition except for you double set your base, you spin with 6, game's over. So, on Eye of the Storm, 2 bases, drop the flag, okay? That's rule of thumb number 1. Rule of thumb number 2. There are situations where you don't get 2 bases, right? And this game can result in a capture the flag fest, depending on if the team that is losing, like maybe they lost their base for a second, then they got it back and they got the flag and they capture it. If we go to capture fest, always be ready for the next node. Let's say, here's rule of thumb number 2, is when the flag is going to be captured. So the losing team has the flag and you know they have to capture, or somebody gets gripped into it and you're just like, instead of being really frustrated at them like I would be, here's your rule of thumb. The second this game comes into a capture fest, it's no longer our side and their side, right? It is now the whole map is in play. This is the most important part of this rule of thumb that I could say. The whole map is in play. It's not like this is their mage tower, but maybe we could send somebody over there, and this is our blood elf tower, but maybe they'll send... No, you got to go. Everybody split out, 1 healer to each base, 4-on-4 kind of action, right? Because if they spin your node and get theirs for free because you only sent 1 guy there, let's say it's the exact same thing as the market again. Let's say you have a 4v6 here. So they have 4 and you have 6. So it's really a 6v4, right? But they have 2 healers. This is just like market all over again. You can't kill them quickly. They get their node for free in what is a 4v2, right? So they just dominate your 2 players there. They get the base and they're starting to get points. And then the players that won that very quickly can start peeling over and spinning you, because a 6v4 is harder to win than a 4v2. The ratios just don't work out. And they have 2 healers here at Blood Elf, right? So what happens is you just get stuck in a market-esque spinning situation. They get a base for free, you don't, they're winning the game. It's that simple. So the rule of thumb is, when it's a capture fest, spread out to the newly active nodes. Do not fight them at Felrier. Like, well, there's some people here and I'm going to fight them for a little while to get a kill. That kill doesn't really matter, because the most important thing is that you're fighting on the points that are about to be active. So instead, use your mobility, slow them, move to the next space. Go from Fel Reaver to Blood Elf and chains them, or Fel Rush, or Druid Roots, and just as you're running, slow. Knock them, slow. Running, slow. Mobility, slow, right? You just keep slowing them and moving yourself to get to one of these new nodes as it's captured. And again, wherever you see everybody going to, go to the other one. It's not your side and their side anymore. It's everything. It's all fair game, because you got to be able to spin both. If they get one for free, they'll go to the other one right after, and they'll spin that while they have the other node, and you lose, right? So rule of thumb number 2 is when EOTS becomes a capture fest for whatever reason, don't panic. Go to the next node. Spread your guys out. If you're seeing everybody go to one place, you got to go to the other. Make a play, be the difference maker, and move. Use every mobility tool in your toolkit. Do not, even if you're fighting them there, forget about it. That fight doesn't matter anymore. Go to the next base, slow them on the way, make a play. EOTS. Whew. Okay. We now go to the brand new map, Deephaul Ravine. Deephaul Ravine is super straightforward. Rule of thumb number 1. Match numbers in the objectives, right? So you have your cart that is your cart. Unlike in the situation I was describing, it starts on your side of the base. It becomes yours instantly. They have to do something to stop that from being your cart. It's yours. And meanwhile, you've got another side that's theirs, and that's their cart. Which means since you have the tag already, you don't need to sit 2 people there. But you also can't sit 0 people there. If somebody carts across, click battleground enemies, and they go into your cart, the second you lose that cart and they have the tag, they can turn that into a spin node. You're getting 0 points. They're getting everything. You're in so much trouble. So what do you have to do? Match numbers in every objective point on the map. If they send 1 person over, you send 1 person over. If they're a very, very good 1v1 class, they can stall that out. Then, once you're low and the cart starts moving, you can have a ranged DPS, bolt them twice. Boom, they're dead instantly. You didn't even have to throw everybody back there. Oh my God, there's somebody in our cart. Let's all run back. Oh, what? You left us all. We all wiped, and now we lost middle, right? Match those numbers, and then if you are watching, if you're aware, looking at battleground enemies, looking at their health, a caster, a fast melee, just gets over there, pops him, he's dead instantly, runs right back, right? So you match those numbers, and then you just kind of finish the job once the carts get closer. You can't send everybody out, but you can't send nobody. Same thing in middle, right? If they send 3 out, you still have to match the numbers in middle. So you still have to make sure you've got that 5 in middle, because the second middle wipes, they then get to push into your cart, because those carts are going toward the middle of the map. So if middle wipes, if you don't have enough people in middle, you didn't match numbers at every objective point, including the orb in the middle of the map, the carts are going right there. Look at this. They go around this square. This cart goes boop, boop. This cart goes boop, doop. That forms a square of carts for a moment where everything is going on in the middle. That's orb, cart, and cart. And if you wipe there, you're done. They're going to get everything. They're going to get both your cart, their cart, and the orb. And there's almost no way to stop it if you get a full wipe in Deephaul. If they are smart and mobile and very bursty, they will just keep picking you off one by one as you try and come back in, and the game almost feels over. They could get an 800-point lead on the spot. So if 3 people come over, only send 3. Don't freak out because there's 3 people in the cart. Send 6 people over there, then 2 people die, one of them being a healer, and then they just snowball the pressure up here. You got to know where the people are, right? So that's rule of thumb number 1. Rule of thumb number 2, you got to know your win conditions on this map. If you're down, you have to make a play for their cart, right? You have to, instead of just spinning, or see if you can get a really tanky, do the market strat again. See if you can spin, like this is when you're down. Let's say you're down 300 points. All they would have to do is just keep everything the same, and they win by default because they get a card at the beginning, you get a card at the beginning. So what you have to do is you have to be able to make a play. This is when you kind of have to break rule number 1, and you have to aggressively stack numbers on their cart. You have to send your tankiest stuff to mid. Double healer, double disruptive DPS, kind of like market, but doubled, right? Just send everything tanky there, and send your burstiest, best 1v1, your Ret Rogue, the mine strat, right, from Arathi Basin, Ret Rogue Hunter, over to their cart, take the little cart across, get in their cart, and kill somebody instantly. Pop every cooldown and kill somebody instantly. Then you get the tag, and as they send people back, they're down 1 player. So you might be able to pick them off as they come and get that win condition held. So the time where you break the match number rule is when you're behind and you have to make a play. The play that you want to make is not just, I don't know, just send a healer over. Let's just, really concrete, very simple. Tanky, healer DPS in mid, right? Control it, spin it, CC it. Don't try and kill anybody. Try and live. Play it like a market point in Deepwind Gorge. Just live and spin and CC and survive and disrupt, and don't let them grab the orb. And don't let them leave either. CC them, slow them, don't let them leave. Send your mines idea, so that the Ret Hunter Rogue, over to their cart, pop every CD instantly. Don't save it for anything. Just kill him instantly in the cart, and then as they come back in, pick them off one by one, because you know they already have 1 down. So know your win conditions. Sometimes you have to get their cart. If your win con is you're exactly down by an orb, well, you got to get that orb, right? So you'd have to overload, 8 into middle, hope that you have somebody that can float back to your cart. Don't send anybody into your cart. Just full 8 in middle, target healers, CC them a lot, silence them, disrupt them in any way, get a kill, and then hopefully you get a wipe that ends in a cart orb capture for them. Somebody should probably be clicking it or an orb capture for yourself. Hopefully somebody's clicking it like a healer that doesn't need to do DPS, while the DPS kind of just slowly kill them and CC them one by one. Deephaul Ravine, again, is very simple. It's just 1 cart, capture, you get points. Another cart, capture, you get points. They cross paths to give both teams a chance at them. And you have an orb in the middle that gives points and heroism for a second. But the orb in the middle, sometimes it's just a constant spin. Sometimes it doesn't matter at all until somebody fully wipes and then they get everything. Deephaul can be about that first full wipe, which is why that first rule, I said it's so imperative. You don't want to try and make a play until you have to. That's why I said the first rule first. Because if you do, and you don't make that play, and then your whole team wipes, the game could just be over on the spot. That's 800 points, it could be over. So, Deephaul Ravine. Okay, Warsong Gulch. We got 5 more. These are going to go a little faster, because these maps have been around since I was born. So, not really, but, you know, it's been a while. Warsong Gulch, though. Rule of thumb number 1 is know what your flag carriers are, but I think everybody does, so I'm going to go quick. Flag carriers are fast, mobile, slippery classes. Outlaw Rogue has 1,000,000 grapple hooks. Sub Rogue has Shadow Step and a new PvP talent where they can like make a mirage and teleport to it. I mean, that seems like it's out of Guild Wars 2 or something. That's an incredible ability. But yeah, Sub Rogue and Outlaw Rogue are slippery. Preservation is everything in the entire game. It's slippery and tanky and self-healing and immune to CC and immune to disruption, can heal itself to full and immune to slows and everything in the entire game. So if you have a Prez, use the Prez. It's the best FC to the average player base. Apparently at the very, very top end, you can do some incredible tricks with Rogue and Mistweaver with their mobility and dropping the flag between one to another. But, you know, this is a guide for people who watch my videos, and I don't think any 3700 rogues are watching my videos. So Prez is at almost every MMR, and for every average player, the best thing you could ever have with the flag. What that means is get it into their hands. So if they've been struggling, get it into their hands. Believe in them. Unless they just are trying to lose and they're typing to you in chat, ha ha ha, I can't wait to lose. You still got to give them a shot, right? If a DK has it in their hands and can't get it across, you have no win condition. If a marksmanship hunter has it in their hands and they just don't have the toolkit, you have no win condition, right? So even if you have to pick it, pass it off to them. Find a way to get it in your playmakers with the flag's hands. Sometimes you don't have any of those specs, which means you have to have something that can move. Druid can flap across from high areas. It's even better in Twin Peaks, which we'll get to in a second. It's fine in Warsong, not great. It's much better, obviously. I think it's only really usable on this side where you get this nice jumping off point. Not nearly as good on the other. But get it into your playmakers' hands. That is the rule of thumb there. Again, Rogue, anything with mobility, Boomy. If you have a tank, get it into the tank's hands, right? If this is a tank lobby, you got Vengeance Demon Hunter or Guardian Druid. That's just rule of thumb number one. Don't be the guy who just holds it because it's like, I saw you die once, so you're completely worthless. Unless they're actively trolling you, just keep giving them a shot. The game does not end on one cap. If they died and lost the first cap, believe in them. Because if you cap last with 2 minutes left, it doesn't matter how sloppy it was, you win that game. Don't be a marksmanship hunter with a flag in your hands. You just got to say, I'm going to get it and run it to you, but then you're going to run and I believe in you. Okay. Rule of thumb number 2. Know your role, defense or offense. It is very important that guys, the entire team in the starting room kind of sets up who needs to be offense, who needs to be offensive healer, who needs to be defense, who needs to be defensive healer, right? If you have everybody on one side or the other, it just never works out. You think, well, if we have 6 people on defense and only 2 on offense, we're at least going to destroy their offense. No, you won't. Eventually, what will happen is stacks ramp up so quickly, and it becomes so impossible to heal that you could have 10 people back there, and it wouldn't matter. One rogue opens on you from stealth and a hunter with rapid fire, and you're taking unfathomable damage, and you die in 2 shots, and you're not healable, right? These stacks don't do just more damage. They also make it so you can't heal yourself. So at one point, it's a death sentence. You just die with this flag once they get to you. And stealth classes can get to you. As long as there's enough of them, if there's 4 people on offense and a healer, they can find a way. They can use their cloak and their vanish and their evasion and their steps to just get to you. And once they've locked in, doesn't matter if you have a great defense. It doesn't matter if you're overloading defense. You're dead. So you have to know who's your offensive team, who's your defensive team, and try and follow that to the best of your ability. I know sometimes it can be so frustrating when your offense is just like, what are they doing? They're over here. They're over here. You got to go. He's up on roof. Where are you doing? You just kind of have to trust the process, because if you give up and the other guy gives up and now you have no defense and the healer's by himself, he's just dead. And now you had no chance to get it because all they have to do is kite and slow you for 5 seconds, right? There's this situation where once the scale tips one way or the other, let's say, I can actually use the little map finally to visualize this, right? Let's say you have one guy on defense because everybody gave up and the offense wasn't getting kills, and be like, I can get kills, so I'm going to play offense. Let's say you have 7 on offense. You're going to get that kill, right? But here's the problem. Let's say there's a DK right here in tunnel, and you're going to get that kill with 7 of you, but he presses chains, and AoE stun, and AoE blind, and a grip, and another grip, and you're slowly trudging up to him. You know, once you get there, once you get up this ramp, once you get onto the roof, once you get back there, you're going to kill him. You got 7 people there. But they're also moving here, and they're completely unabated. Nobody is slowing them. Nobody is stopping them, and they get there faster. So even though you've got 7 people and you're a beast and you're a burst class and you know you could kill that guy, you never even get the chance, because they're 4 players, which is not as much as your 7, but is still enough. Just go waltz right back up there, kill him instantly, return, cap, and by the time you even sluggishly crawled your way up the ramp, He's already capped, and it doesn't matter that you're about to kill him in 2 seconds because the game is now out of your hands, right? So, defense, offense, know your role. Slows and peels should be on defense, right? Rets have fantastic utility. That should be on defense. DK can slow, chains, stun, blind, grip, stop them from moving up there and make that race much more likely to be won. Warrior, shockwave, fear, piercing howl, storm bolt. He can blade storm out of CC to make sure that he's still available to peel. Intervene, big damage with Immortal Strike, rotting you as you go up these ramps or up these ramps, right? BM Hunters also have a fantastic slowing toolkit, but they're also really good on offense. So that's kind of because they always have damage and they're very hard to peel in kites. So all of that stuff is good. Frost Mages have amazing roots. Just put the Blizzard right here on the bottom, root them on their way up, slow them, slow them, slow them, slow them. Poly Ice Wall. Oh, put an Ice Wall right here in this little doorway. Now you can't get through. Next, like you're still going to lose the race, right? Keep those classes. Ret for lay on hands and Senk and Hodge and Blind and Searing Glare, or whatever the PvP talent is called, where all of a sudden none of them can do anything because they're all missing their attacks, right? All of those tools, those really powerful peels, utility, disruption, slows, grips, shockwaves, spheres, that should be on defense. And then what are you going to put on the offense? Stealthies, burst, right? Rogue, Hunter, Boomkin, Incarn, True Shot. Gets right up there through stealth. You dodge some of the traps there. You stealth right up. Cheap, True Shot, rapid fire, aim shot, one-shot him from 100% health to 0, dead instantly, cap the flag, and you slowed them on the way there, so you win. Know your role. I might not have to do a Twin Peaks one. Instead, the same rule of thumbs apply from Warsong Gulch to Twin Peaks, but let's just take a look at the map. Let's do the Twin Peaks map design rule of thumb. Unlike Warsong, that has that gauntlet that you have to walk up to slow them, which is really, really difficult to deal with because it's like this winding cave and you're just getting pulled out of stealth and slowed up the roof, right? Twin Peaks is kind of open, right? It's a very open map design. Look at this thing. You just waltz right up and then you get there, right? There's not really this maze that you have to traverse and structure that you have to go through on both sides. You don't have to go through water. You can just go right in here or right in the front. So this moat seems like it adds an extra level of protection, but it doesn't. You can really just go right in. So the idea then is you might need less on defense and more on offense as rule of thumb for Twin Peaks because you got to win the race, right? If slowing them is harder to do on Twin Peaks, I've seen a lot of high MMR teams say, I'm a Prez, just give me a ret and everybody else go offense and kill him before he even gets there, right? 6-man O kind of deal. So Twin Peaks seems to be, it leads toward more scale tipping one side or the other and less grudge match of a map, specifically because of how the map is designed. It's just an open field where you could kill him here, you could kill him here, you could kill him in the open, you could kill him as he picks it and runs out here, you could kill him right there, right there. There's just not a lot of places to hide. The map is big and outstretched and sprawling, and as a result, people just say, let's win the race, let's win the race. So again, know your role, but your role might be different on Twin Peaks. You might just send a very, very heavy offense. You might even have the DK go offense, so every time they try and get across, grip them back, cross, grip them back, right? You can now switch your toolkit to stopping the FC from moving anywhere instead of the offense from moving anywhere. In fact, you could slow all of their defense, and then the Prez has to come back or something because he's got nobody with him, right? You're kind of now trying to make the sluggish thing about their FC and how he can perform because of the map design. Of course, other map design features, all still part of rule of thumb number 1, which is all we'll talk about on Twin Peaks, are Z-axis over on Alliance side. You can get punted off here, punted off here, punted off here. You got to be careful if you have any knockback protection, use it. If you have like CC for an Ellie Shaman or a Mage, use it. You can stun them, silence them, fear them, poly them, anything to stop them from just getting a free punt on you. Of course, they might have Trinket and knock you anyway, and that's something you'll have to deal with, but at least try. You've got this other side that avoids knockback, and then you've got this side where you can get right up to the knockback point and then sneak inside the house before you get knocked, but just know of that. And the other features, of course, are the Z-axis in the buildings themselves. So you've got a second floor and a first floor. What you kind of want to do sometimes is if there's a priest up there, grip, That's a really powerful tool, of course, or a rogue that can step or verdant. You don't want to follow your entire team down there and get all of your ankles broken simultaneously. If you're a range class, stay up top. If you're a melee class and your entire team is melee, let a few others drop down and then stay up top. So when he gets gripped back up, he's still taking damage, right? Just know the utility of the map, right? Second floor, shadow step, verdant embrace, life grip from a priest. You kind of got to be aware at that all times. So rule of thumb number 1 is and the only one is Twin Peaks has an interesting map design that has a lot of stuff going on in the buildings, not nearly as gauntlet-y and very wide open and sprawly, allowing you to completely shift how aggressively you play this map from Warsong Gulch. And there you go. 3 maps left, boys. Temple of Kotmogu. Rule of thumb number 1 is going to be know your pickers, right? The orb picker uppers, whatever whatever you want to call it. The people who can pick up orbs. That is the same thing generally as FCs, but without the mobility component as important, right? You could still have a lock pickup or a mage pickup because they don't have to get it from one place to another. They kind of just have to be able to attack, CC, counter pressure with the orb in their hands. So locks can port with the flag or the orb, which is really nice because you can drop your orb down in here, wall, get all your burst off, infernal, conflag, bolts off with the wall, bolt immunity, and then right when they all swap to you, port right back up, right? So you have some other classes that can do it, but the classes that were good at having orbs are going to also be the classes that were good at flag carrying. So that means Prez is absolutely amazing. Augment and Dev add that because they have the same toolkit as Prez, and they don't need the self-healing as much because they should be near healers. Sub-Rogue and Outlaw Rogue are amazing because they're not really going to do that much damage, pad damage on their own. That's not what Outlaw and Sub do. But they can still use their mobility toolkit to maneuver away from their DPS trying to kill them. And if somebody chases them, I've seen rogues kind of sit in the corner here. They're still getting points here as long as they're not outside of the map. And then when somebody chases them to try and get line of sight of them, all of a sudden you're getting shadow danced and bursted. And the orb actually makes you do more damage as well as taking more damage. So if you can just lock somebody down who doesn't have trinket, you can cheap, and just kill them 100 to 0. And generally people don't like chasing all the way to the corners of the map, so they might not have anybody to help them. And then all of a sudden, not only do you have the orb in your hands, you're getting points. You also got a kill, which is points. And you also took one of their people that can kill orbs out of the game. Wow. So sub-rogue, outlaw rogue, lock with port, mage because they have displacement and blink and they can kind of maneuver around this while getting fire, instant cast pyroblast from combustion, or Frost Mage just doing like a Frozen Orb go, right? They can just kind of circle around using Blink and Displacement to be slippery while staying in the fight and using that damage bonus and disrupting as much players as they can. Because you don't want to have your orb carriers all just stand in the corner, or your team gets wiped because they have to come back and heal you, but then they can't heal the people in the middle, and they're just like back and forth, right? You can't just do nothing and win. You can't just pick orb, AFK, do nothing and win. It's really helpful to have players with the orb that can also make an impact while having an orb carrier that kind of just pulls their team into bad spots and kills them. The best thing you can do on Temple is disjoint their team with your orbs, where they don't get to all just snowball like a wrecking crew across the map. We've got our whole 8 players here. Kill this guy, kill this guy, kill this guy, and just go through and just wipe you with your orbs. You want things to be off balance, right? You want them to be chasing a mage, but then he displacements back to here, and then he blinks over there, and now you've got people out of position, and then they're getting rotted to death and slowed, and there's a line of sight here with these pillars. Pillar, line of sight here, line of sight here, line of sight around this corner, right? And you're dragging them around and then rotting them as then they need to push up, but they don't have a healer that can follow them. You just need orb carriers who can put them in bad spots, survive, good mobility, but also sometimes apply some pressure with the orb in their hands. Then, part of rule of thumb number 1, is don't have people who can't have the orbs in their hands have the orbs in their hands. Please pick up so those players can just play the game. A warrior, for example. Warriors, they rot. They don't have a lot of self-healing. They can't apply pressure with the orb in their hands because that requires them to be in the fray. And if they're in the fray with an orb stacking up, they just die instantly because everybody swaps to them, right? So they don't really have that toolkit where they can play out, get some range damage, kite for a second, rot people. They don't have that, right? They need to get their upfront brunt damage going, so they can't really have an orb in their hands. Don't force them to pick by just saying orbs, orbs, orbs. Everybody has to get an orb. That works at the very end of the game when you just need like 30 more points. But if your warrior picks, walks in, dies instantly, now you just lost a player. What'd you get, 30 points off of that? Like, that doesn't do anything for you. So rule of thumb number 1, said that right this time, is it is important that you know the orb pickers, uppers, but you also know who can't do it, right? So warrior, maybe a DK like a frost DK, because a frost DK doesn't have range damage, doesn't have rot. It wants to do on-demand damage to their orbs, right? Just obliterate, frost strike, howling blast, AoE stun, big damage, go on everybody, peel everything, slow their healers, CC their healers, right? It wants to do all of that. And when it's doing all of that right in the middle of the map, it would be a target for just, oh, I couldn't do my go because I died in 1 second, right? Now your go is completely worthless. You didn't get any points. He's dead, right? Stuff like that. Rets also do not want to have the orb in their hands because they've got great utility and great immunities, but none of it can be used with an orb in their hands. They can press lay and then die immediately after, but they cannot bubble, they cannot spell bop, they cannot physical bop. They're just a sitting duck. They lose their entire utility toolkit, and they're really bursty at a range, so they could kill orbs and support the DPS that are chasing orbs, allowing their healers to heal orbs, but instead, they're just dead instantly. That's rule of thumb number 1. Rule of thumb number 2, and the final one, is have an offense healer. If both, let's say you've got your orbs on this side, right? And they've got their players kind of pushing into you. So they start moving up and playing aggressive and taking space. If you see them coming for their orbs, it's very tempting to just be like, well, I need to heal their orbs. But if you have DPS that are also doing the same, and they have a healer pushing up and you don't have a healer pushing up, then their entire offense wipes instantly to the people back here, and they're done, and their orbs are just going to be stacking up points and stacking up damage mods to destroy you. And you don't have as many people to help with that because they're dead instantly. While you just heal orbs for maybe, a few more seconds of life, but eventually they become, the burst is too high, and the healing reduction is too high, and you can't keep them alive. So let's say you had 2 healers back there, and they had 1 healer back, and they send 1 healer up to you, and you send 0 healers up to them. What happens is your offense wipes, they push in, you heal this, you're like, it's all right, I'll keep our orbs alive. That's the most important players, right? Nobody else matters but orbs, right? Wrong. Because eventually, again, 10 extra seconds, that's a few extra points, but then boom, they're instantly dead because they're unhealable, taking way too much damage. Your offense wiped, they have orbs. Your defense wiped, you have no orbs. And they have the body count, so they can just start picking you off. Now they can all train a healer. You're like, wait a minute, I have nobody to heal, I have no orbs, no offense, no defense, and I'm alone. That means all 6 of these players are going to converge right on me, and I can't heal through it. Now they're snowballing wipes. They have the orbs, you don't. You may have gotten a few extra seconds of value there from having 2 healers, but it doesn't matter because they're going to get way more extra seconds as a result of this wipe. You were able to put no pressure on them. So healers and DPS, position in a way with your healers. You got to get everybody aggressive. You can't just play in a pile back here while 1 DK and 1 warrior goes over there and is like, oh, well, that's all right, we'll kill him. Oh my god, 4 people turned on me and they also had a healer back here and I died instantly. And you got to play as a team. You got to have people that can position all around the map and position aggressively, so you have your players, your DK, your warrior, or your rogue, your marksman hunter that destroy these orbs. They can't just get peeled and die, otherwise they're useless. They have to have somebody who can support them. So have healers, utility DPS, play aggressive, move toward the orbs. Don't just sit there and babysit yours or the game is effectively over, because they dictate the pace and the snowball and they'll wipe you over and over. Temple of Kotmogu. 2 more left, guys. Battle for Gilneas. Rule of thumb. Number 1. Match numbers. Again. You can't be the guy who just waits for somebody else to do it. If you're playing a class where they need you, you got to be active. If they send, here's Lighthouse, here's Mines, here's Waterworks. You guys are playing Alliance side, which means you have Lighthouse. If you have 1 person at Lighthouse and they send 2, and you're a Boomkin player or a DH player, you have to be able to match numbers, right? He can't win that. He can't. So eventually, no matter how good he is, how many times he spins, he will eventually lose the base. And if everybody just sits here and he's begging for help, you may win this eventually, Doesn't matter, they already got your base. Match numbers. But let's elaborate that. Everybody knows that, right? Even if some people don't follow it all the time, let's elaborate on that. Match numbers properly. Let's take the exact same situation. Rhett here against Rogue Hunter. He does a phenomenal job spinning, but he's eventually going to lose it. He's begging for help. A Mistweaver peels out and comes to Lighthouse. That's matching numbers, right? 2-2. But wait a minute. You don't necessarily need a healer there to win that or spin that 2v2, but you absolutely need 2 healers here to even have a chance of surviving at Waterworks. Because, again, let's do some math. 1 DPS sitting, 2 DPS attacking. That's 3. That means there's 3 DPS here. 3 DPS versus 1 healer is a kill. That is a kill. 2 DPS versus 1 healer, maybe not. 3 DPS, that is an entire extra burst set of cooldowns on 1 guy. That is more pseudo CC, more stuns, more silences, more disruption, more burst, more cooldowns, all for 1 guy. That is no longer manageable. And maybe you have a lot of great DPS that could peel for him, but again, it's just too much pressure, and they have all sorts of AoE, CC, and peels of their own, so you might not just be able to do that for free, right? They still have their 2 healers there, so you can't just kill them off your healer because they're not going to die, right? So what happens here is you have a situation where you did match numbers and then just lost the other base instead. And once that healer dies, the whole team is dead. You can't, no amount of DPS, no matter how fantastic they are, can survive 3 DPS that are all immortal because they have 2 healers and you have to play extremely defensive. They just get to rot you, kill you. You don't have the self-heal sustain toolkit. By the time this Mistweaver can get back there, they're all dead. And maybe the Mistweaver gets back there, now he's dead, right? Because it's still 3-on-1, right? So what happens is match numbers properly. If they send 3 DPS here, now you can move a Mistweaver out, keep everybody else there. You do the 2v3 spin strat that we talked about at Market and win Waterworks because you have bodies. You only had to send 1 person out and you have a lot of DPS still there. And eventually they're going to all rot to death because you just have more bodies than they do, right? You just have to understand a healer cannot be worth 1 DPS, right? A healer would have to be, oh my God, they sent 4, right? Otherwise, just send a mobile class out, a Demon Hunter, a Boomkin, a Windwalker, you know, something, an Augment Druid, or Augment Evoker, rather. If you have an Augment Evoker on your team, they're very good at peeling. Very, very good, because they're tanky and useful and have high utility and good mobility, and they can get there and live and eventually kill them because they do have a lot of damage as well. And they're not a healer specialization, which means you still have healers in the team fight. So in Gilneas, match numbers properly. Rule of thumb number 2, you don't necessarily have to always be the hero on this map. If you're a base assaulting class and you can get their base, that's fantastic. But if he's winning the 1v1 against you, sit and send your guy out. So let's say you're sitting a hunter, and so the rogue can make plays, but he's not making plays and he's losing the 1v1. Just sit him, and then the marksman hunter goes mid, and you can play for the team fight, right? It's not always about, this is not like Deepwind or Arathi, where you can contest their node because it keeps going newt. This base never goes newt. So if you go there, here's the problem, right? If you go there, and you are taking 1 player out of team fight, you're now never supposed to win that team fight, right? 1, 2, 6, 1, 0, 7, right? So whichever team sends somebody to their base is now immediately down in the team fight and should lose just because of arithmetic, right? Now, you might not, but that just means they are so amazing that they carried that team fight, right? If you win a 6v7, that's an incredible feat, right? It's not how it should go, it's how it did go. But 7v6 should always win because of arithmetic. So if you're not winning this node and he's just outplaying you, spinning you, he or she spinning you, CCing you, living, and eventually you rot to death and you just don't get the base, your CC is not enough, you're not making the play, go back, sit, send 7 to team fight, and give your team a chance to win, right? So hero mode is only really good is if you're making enough plays in that game. Look, everybody has bad games. If you're not making enough plays to force somebody back, your team is now always down. So all you have to do is look and say, did they have to pull somebody back for me? Is this a 1v2 and thus it's a 6v6 a team fight? Yes? Great. Maybe if they tell me that, hey, the team fight's going well, just keep pulling that guy off. It's actually useful for us because we don't want him in team fight. Great. I'm useful. But if it's not, then you have to stop doing that thing. And there could be a chance that even pulling that guy back is not useful because here, 2v1, they kill you. You res back here. You have to respawn. This guy, while you're respawning, goes back. Now it's a 7v6. You're respawning. Then you respawn. You have to go all the way back across the map to pull him back, right? So for a lot of the game, he's there. You're dead. You walk. He goes back. He kills. You're dead. He goes back. He's fighting at mid while you are dead, right? So it is very difficult unless you are 100% getting the base or pulling their best player out and living a long time so they have a chance of winning that team fight. It is very difficult to just say, I'm a hero, I'm a rogue, I can make a play, right? I'm going to be the hero of this team. I pulled somebody out. Why haven't we won yet? This is why, by the way. This is why. If you pull somebody out, why haven't we won yet? It makes no sense. That makes no sense to say. Again, 1, 2, they have 2. So that means 2, 2, 6, 6. They still have a balanced team fight there, even if you pull somebody out, right? That doesn't mean you won the game inherently. Everybody needs I need to know this, right? You don't win the game inherently just because you're winning. You're trying to do a 1v2. Like, oh, 1v2, that's pretty good, right? I'm outplaying them because I'm only 1 and they're 2. It doesn't work like that because you still have to sit your base. That only works if you're ghosting. And ghosting can be punished. If somebody sees you there and then a mobile class gets to mines before you do, you just lost their base. You didn't get that one because it's 2v1, right? 2v1, you lose this, you lost that, and this one's neuted. Wow, now you have nothing, right? Ghosting can be really, really scary. Honestly, that should be rule of thumb number 3. You know what? Side, nope. Rule of thumb number 3. Ghosting can be very, very, very scary, right? If you ghost to get a base that you don't get, when you lose your base, this is, again, not like Arathi Basin or Deepwind Gorge, where losing your base is like, it'll be newt soon, we'll just get it back on the next one. Losing your base could just end the game. If they have 2 bases and you have a neuted base here, they're getting hundreds of points, you're getting nothing, right? That is just, ghosting is scary. There's rule of thumb number 3. Don't just be I got 2 here, that means we win, right? Nope, they got my ghost, they killed me here, and we don't have this. That's just not a way to win the game. Okay. Finally, Silvershard Mines. Okay. Rule of thumb number 1. Don't overcommit top. Do not over. This is the top cart. Do not ever overcommit to this node. Almost never should a healer be up here unless it is the must cap to win node, which it almost never is. But the only time a healer should really ever be up here is if it's absolutely required to win the game. Because look how far away it goes from. Here's the fastest cart to cap, lava. Boop, boop. Look how fast that is. Boop, boop. Here's the second fastest, middle. And here's the slowest, top. But there's a problem. Not only is it the slowest cart to cap, it's also the farthest away from everything else, right? So not only are you getting less points by sending a healer here and locking it in, but losing the other ones, you also have to go all the way back. So you are out of the game for longer and getting less points per second everywhere. Because if they're getting one of these faster nodes guaranteed because they're just wiping you because you're down a healer there and it's easy to wipe, as we've talked about this entire video, you are getting less points per second and slower to peel over here. So do not overcommit to top. That means DPS, 3 DPS, that's probably too much. 4 DPS, that's way too much. A healer and 2 DPS, that's way too much. A healer at all is probably way too much. There are very niche situations where you absolutely need the cart and then you send a healer up there. But most of the time, the healers want to float around the place they can be the most useful the most times, right? They are useful more often in these 2 fast capping nodes that are right next to each other than they'll ever be at 1 slow capping cart that's very far away. So that rule of thumb number 1 is, hey, probably don't ever send a healer to top. And also, if you can get away with a 2v2 installing them, do it and just play for winning mid, right? Don't get 6 people up here because even if you win that cart, it will take them forever. It will take them so long to get back if they're getting slowed or punted off into the water. Look at all this stuff that can happen. You get slowed up here, you get blinded, you get stunned. All of a sudden, whoop, I got knocked off. Okay, I'm swimming back up. Okay, I land up here. All right, walking over, got slowed one more time, got gripped back. Hold on, walking back over, gripped again, walking back over. Okay, I made it. Oh, we lost them both, right? That's what happens. You have this gauntlet of positioning that you have to go through to get all the way back to the middle of the map. That can be a knock that completely disrails your movement, right? And all that, just to get you back into the middle of the map, you still have to go all the way down to lava, which might be about to cap, all the way up to water, which might be about to cap. You do have this nice Batman drop down from the cliff, which is really good if you're playing a line side. You just cap this, grab the Zerking, drop down and try and kill them in the cart. But again, once you're all the way up here, things can be really, really bad. So, rule of thumb number 1, don't overcommit to top cart. Rule of thumb number 2, know your off-cart players. So we talked about this on the off nodes in Arathi and Deepwind. What classes are good from this? You can recite it by heart by now. You've got Ret, Rogue, Hunter, Shadow Priest. It's high survivability, dispersion, and life swap. Ret, Spellbomb, Bomb, Sink, Bubble, Lay on Hands, Burst cooldowns, right? Searing Light, Hunter, kill their whole team from stealth. Volley in the cart, kill them instantly, pop in there, right? Marksmanship Hunter, Rep Paladins, Shadow Priest. Those classes would love to do a DPS versus DPS 3v3 in mid because they've got the utility and the pressure to win it without dying themselves, right? You don't want a warrior there. Do you want a warrior there? Man, Warrior is just a spin class. It just wants to sit in lava and spin nodes. So every single time I have an example for something you don't want somewhere, it seems to be a warrior. But if any warriors are watching this video, great. Now we're not going to have a Fury warrior go into mid-cart and dying instantly and being like, well, I didn't get to go do my burst. Where's my healer? Well, they're probably at lava, right? So, warrior, not great for that node. Other things that kind of require, setup, like... maybe an Arcane Mage. I don't know how much setup Arcane Mage has these days, but if you can't get your burst off instantly and be extremely tanky while doing it with great utility for your teammates, you probably shouldn't be there. So stealth classes are great because they can burst from stealth, and utility classes, Ret, Shadow Priest, hybrids, even Enhance, extraordinarily tanky on off nodes. Very tough to deal with. You can't kill them. They can keep themselves or their teammates alive. They have great utility in Tremor and Grounding. Fantastic wall. Really good burst from Ascendance that they can do in a range, right? Enhance, that sort of thing. So, rule of thumb number 2, know your classes for off carts. There they are, which means everybody else is in lava. Locks, Rot, Port, they should be in lava. Port them out of the cart. Fear them. Rot them. Burst them with coil and bolts. Warriors, slow them, stun them. Grind them out of damage and defensive cooldowns, Cleaving, they're stuck in one point as it goes down this cart, right? This is the moving cart that you have to stay within, which means the warrior will always have a place where he knows they must be and can cleave them and Bladestorm and Shockwave and Fear and Mortal Strike and Sweeping Strikes, right? So all of those tools, DK's very good at that as well. AoE stun, grip people together, blind them, cleave them, burst them, right? So rule of thumb number 2, know where your class should be. And that, I think, my friends, will do it. I think the very beginning of the video has some stuff that absolutely everybody needs to know. I think by the end of it, we've got some maps. I tried to organize it this way where a lot of people have kind of figured out, I've noticed, but hopefully I did see an Shaman Ret, and I won't name any names, sit top the entire game in one of my last silver shards. Just never left it. So we just got every top and then lost by 800. But we did get every top, and we lost by 800. So, still useful information here. If you want, share this with somebody who plays BG Blitz. Maybe they will learn something they didn't think of before. Maybe they will look at something a different way. Maybe they have their own thoughts, and we can have a discussion about it in the comments below. Any other tools and tricks and tips and anything that you guys have learned, I will update this come midnight again. And if it helps, toss it around to anybody who you think might get some use out of it. Thank you. For sure, for watching. I think this must have been an hour, right? So I'm not even going to look. I'm just going to upload it and we'll see. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you for tolerating my voice for that amount of time. I stream BG Blitz every single day. If you want to come watch or maybe even duo with me, feel free. Thanks. Peace.